It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas.
All right, here we go on Monday. Cofield and Company. Willie Ramirez is here. He is the company. James is back in our Findlay Toyota studios. What's up, Willie?
What's up, and Steven?
A whole lot. Very busy day, crazy day of stuff around sports.
I want to know what you did this weekend back east.
A lot of family issues.
I want to know what you did back east over the weekend before we get into everybody else's family drama. What's going on back east with you?
Schedule is tight tonight. We will get to the rest of what's going on back here. I met some family. I'll give you some stories as the show moves along because it's all one big theme about family, and I'll tell you how my family
gets down
operates. But some of the headlines today, Willie, are fascinating.
Yeah.
First of all, we got an NFL head coach who was in a car accident, and then I guess they covered it up or didn't release it to the public for now 13 days. Little Shanny, the head coach of the Niners, in an auto accident that was pretty damn serious. Yeah. We know that through stories of the jilted lover and then the alpha female, that another family drama is Nalissa Smith apparently has been doinking her way through the NBA, so we'll get to that. Eric Bieniemy's son, this is tragic. Still waiting to find out what the hell the details are on this one, but Eric Bieniemy's son, Bieniemy back as the OC of the Chiefs, his son shot his mom, Bieniemy's wife. That's a crazy one. We've got Mike Lombardi placed on leave from North Carolina because of either an HR complaint or maybe a compliance department complaint, so we'll get into that one. So lots going on, and as I said, no one's family is perfect, but there are a lot of family issues if you consider especially a guy like Lombardi is part of the Belichick family. So a lot of family issues, discord, lack of faithfulness. A lot going on, Willie. It's ugly today. I mean, we enjoy this kind of stuff, but it's ugly.
Well, since you rapid-fired it, I'm going to rapid-fire it right back, and then we can discuss it. One is I don't have a problem with how the 49ers handled it initially with Shanahan in any way, shape, or form. Number two, we don't know what Nalissa Smith did, only that somebody who was inebriated decided to spout off, and why all of a sudden now...
Actually, we kind of do know because Nalissa Smith said, what's the big deal? It's in the past.
We don't know because she even said whether or not I cheated or she cheated, so they're still out there that we don't know. And we don't know what Dejanay did. But, again... drunk, spouting it off in the middle of a party just to embarrass somebody and get her kicked out when they were there all weekend and it could have already been done, and Dejanay can be snooty. The third thing is actually you said tragic, and wow, that's just, it's terrible, especially when it's, something to this magnitude, right? I mean, you're shooting a family member, and then I think Lombardi, out of everything, is the biggest news of them all, of the four that's actually news for us to talk about and report on. The rest of it is TMZ-ish, but that's what we do because it's radio and it's juicy. But, yes, so that's my rapid fire back and we can start at the top because I don't have a problem with how the 49ers handled it.
Yeah. Well, we're going to start with the other family issue, which is the Philly family. And LeBron James is now part of the Philly family. I think Michael Lombardi might be going way back, would probably be I think a Philadelphia area fan. I know he's got a house in Ocean City, which is actually not too far away from where I am, and apparently he's going to be spending a lot of time there if this thing doesn't work out for him at North Carolina. But the LeBron James stuff in Philly obviously is massive sports talk material. I spoke to my brother who lives in Philadelphia, Willie, and he lives about a block south of South Street, so he's in the kind of the center. And if you walk a little bit further south, it's like the real. I mean, there's a lot of real parts of Philly, but where you would walk into a bar and people are talking about whatever the hottest sport take that's related to Philadelphia. I keep reading reports, Willie, and I thought I tried to dispel this at the end of last week. That for LeBron, living in Philly would be just fine. There's plenty of nice places. It would be convenient. But I keep reading reports, and now BBW, Big Brian Windhorst, says that this LeBron living in New York and flying to Philly might be a reality. I think that is a disaster on so many levels. I think it is the exact wrong way to get off to a good start with the Philadelphia fans. If I were a Philly fan of all sports, that would really piss me off.
How far, in reality, no traffic. Just eliminate traffic. Just saying driving from, because you know this better than I do, driving into the facility, like what are we talking, 30, 45 minutes?
From where?
From wherever, in like a good part of New York that he might live. Manhattan, Upper East Side, or is that a good side? Upper West Side? I don't know.
Are you saying he would drive from New York to Philly?
Yeah.
Well, I think that the notion is that it's far enough away that he'd have to take a helicopter. Yeah, it would be. I think even aggressively, it would be minimum a 2-hour drive.
So 2-hour drive. Okay, because I was going to say, do you have?
It's a long ride. It's 90 miles, but none of it's real smooth on the even on the highways.
Okay, so I was going to ask you if you had a problem with a Golden Knight living in Boulder City.
No, I mean and here's the thing: the reason that it's a problem is, one, he's a little too far away. Two, Philadelphia people hate New York. So you're basically starting out by saying, hey, you know what? I signed here, but I really don't want to live amongst you people, and I'm going to go live in hoity-toity New York. And I guess LeBron hasn't talked to anyone. Philadelphians, for the most part, hate New York. It's the moral enemy on the sports side of things. So the optics of that are terrible.
Gotcha. Well, that's LeBron for you, isn't it? I mean, isn't this so LeBron?
I mean, I still believe it's misinformation. I mean, I could see him having a residence in New York and every once in a while flying in, but I don't see how that works at all. And I guess, with a helicopter it could work, but I'm just telling you, it's a bad message to send to the fans of Philly as you're trying to ingratiate yourself. Yeah. Keep in mind, with a city that, just like L.A., Lakers fans en masse, I mean, I would say, my guess is at the beginning of the LeBron era in L.A., easily half the fans, if not many more, were like, I'm not really comfortable with this. I don't want him. I don't like him. And my guess is the passion of anti-LeBron fans is even stronger in Philadelphia.
Yeah, well, then I guess there's got to be something to it. I can't imagine. I mean, is he really going to helicopter in every single? I find it hard to believe that it's a 2-hour commute or a helicopter every single day. Not that he's not capable of doing it financially, but maybe like you said, maybe he puts Savannah and his kids. They're still living at home. Puts them up somewhere in a high rise or in the Hamptons or something in New York, and then. When they're off, when they have 3 days off or something during a homestand, or they cut, I can understand it. And he has. I would imagine that it's 100% true, but it's not to the extent as what we're hearing. In that he's going to have a residence or a high rise in downtown Philly or somewhere in a nice spot, and that he goes, so he's close to the facility. But when he can get home or when he can go to wherever a nice place in New York is. And it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Well, you hinted at the other thing, and if people don't know, I mean they should. Working for an organization, playing for an organization is not just about game nights and game days. You're at the facility all the time, so you need to be within some decent proximity of the facility. And I'm not exactly sure where their facility is. It actually might be in New Jersey. It might be in Camden, across the bridge. I think that's. Last I remember, that's where Howard Eskin, one of the big media guys there, got popped for harassing the female employees at the Sixers facility, and got banned. So I think that's where it was, or where it is. So very interesting. And as I said, I referenced part of this is referencing a conversation I had with my older brother who lives in Philadelphia, who I was talking to about something else, and he brought up LeBron, and he's like, Sports Talk Radio is exploding down here. And he goes, I wasn't even listening to Sports Talk Radio. He said, I was listening to NPR today, and they did 45 minutes on LeBron. I'm like, NPR?
Yes.
So it's a big deal. Just like, listen, you know what my dream is? My dream would be for LeBron to play a couple of years in Philly, absolutely make sure that the Knicks don't win another championship, block them, maybe win a title or two in Philly, and then for one final go-around as part of the Las Vegas NBA ownership team, play that 1 year at 44 years old here in Vegas.
Yes.
I think that would be awesome. Now, I know Vegas fans already are turning over on their graves, and I'm sure they would bitch and whine about it, but we've already seen all this stuff about, you remember for a couple of weeks, one, people trying to push this narrative like, no one wants LeBron. Then the other narrative is, like, why would they want LeBron? We're already starting to see ticket prices for the early games through the freaking roof. There's estimates of, LeBron's presence bringing like $200 to $500 million during the season in economic benefits. So there's a massive boost when the business of LeBron James comes to your town, whether your dopiest fans realize that or not.
LeBron still draws attention, and it's like that phrase I refer to so often in the Howard Stern biopic movie, where they're saying, I don't understand. He's at the top of the ratings again. It's like, well, what about the people that love him? Well, they want to hear what he sounds like. Well, what about the people that don't love him? They want to hear what he's going to say next. Yep. It doesn't matter whether they hate him or love him. They're going to pay attention. Like all the people that were tired of LeBron. I told you this last week. My dad, I think it was with you. It may have been with Parles, but my dad does not like LeBron James, and he will tell me every single time and remind me every single time his name comes up, I don't like him. You know why? And I go, no, Dad, tell me. And he could have just told me three. Yeah. Well, a long time ago when he made his switch, he did this thing, and it was on TV, and the big deal and the decision. Oh, really, Dad? But you know what? He as much as he wasn't paying attention, he was going to pay attention.
Yeah, and we should also mention these are great times for media people. They're great times for traditional media in Philly and around the NBA. When LeBron, chooses a new destination, and it's a powder keg, a tinderbox like Philadelphia. The other thing it's really great for are content creators, because they're at liberty to do whatever they want, take whatever statement they want, and twist it into something. I mean, if I see one more meme about LeBron is making less than the star recruit at Kentucky, LeBron is making less than whatever X player in this league. He is making less because he chose to make less, so he's on a 2-year deal for about $8 million. On the way back, Willie, content creators and social media influencers had a weekend. And what do they have a weekend with? UNLV and Josh Pastner. Pastner told us something on Cofield and Company on July 14th, and I laughed it off because I knew exactly what he was saying, but I didn't see the potential of throwing gas all over what was a tiny, tiny fire, and man, the internet took it and ran with it to the point where I think Josh Pastner recognized, wait, this was not the original message. Now I have to send out something to clarify this. So we'll get into UNLV basketball statement today that came out about 90 minutes ago from Josh Pastner.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas.
So, Willie, you were asking what I was doing over the weekend, and had a good family meetup, good meal with the family. I'll get into that a little later on. Yesterday, I actually spent time at the beach, and going to the beach is a lot different now than it was, say, 40 years ago, where you can literally sit on the beach by yourself and take in the sun, get in the water if you want, and also just sit on your phone and read. And, I'm on my phone all the time kind of prepping for the show, cataloging stories. And one story kept coming up, and it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that was apparently the way it was taken is that UNLV basketball is desperate, and Josh Pastner wants to sell his program, or as I read, the RJ finally catching up on it a lot more today, sent out a tweet this morning saying UNLV men's basketball head coach Josh Pastner is looking to, quote, sell the program for millions of dollars to attract the type of players that can help land the university on the national stage and on the radar of Power 4 conferences. This thing got completely blown out of proportion, and the message got changed, Willie.
Yeah, it's a tough one because you obviously have to be careful in how you say things these days. You have to, but I don't know. The common sense in me tells me that, okay, as much as he needed to be careful in how he phrased that initially, there's nobody out there that actually could have taken this seriously as if.
Oh, I think the internet has taken it very seriously because once it, we talk about the telephone game. Once things start getting stretched out, further away from the original source and the original quotes, the story gets embellished. I want you to listen to what he told us on July 14th because we were one of the first people he told us to, and then he was talking to ABC locally, and they had a small clip, but I didn't see any clip that mentioned the second part of this. But here was Pastner. He sat down with us, and we were at the time. I just want to set this up. At the time, we were talking about who was going to own the NBA team, and Pastner jumped in, and his thought was, why own an NBA team? That costs a lot of money. You can own us. Fire this.
You can buy the Runnin' Rebels college basketball team for about 10 to 12 million.
Wow.
You still get a tax write-off. You can be involved in every single thing. You can sit right there on the bench with us. You can be as involved or as little involved as you want. Think of the amount of money you would save buying our team compared to an NBA team. Magic Johnson, come buy our team. Rich Paul, LeBron James, buy our team. Mr. Foley, you already have a professional team. Come buy the college team. Let's think outside the box on that.
So it was a direct plea to the candidates who have been mentioned to buy the NBA team. And you could hear us in the background, or in front of them, really, laughing. And when I heard it, I was like, okay, that's cool. It's a nice little story that Josh Pastner is twirling here. He's real creative in the way he pitches things. And I just moved on. And then once it came out again this week and then went viral over the weekend, I'm like, that's not the way I took that at all. And you just said, anyone with a brain wouldn't take it that way. But once it hits the internet and just becomes a headline, people don't even watch the clip. They're not even looking for the nuance. They just see, hey, this guy is offering up his program to be purchased. And then, of course, you've got regional rivals who are like, oh, that's pathetic. They're cash poor. I want you to listen to the second part because he sort of clarifies the biggest part of this is they're not really for sale because you can't really be an owner because you're not going to get paid out of this, but you get special privileges. Fire it.
You're really involved in something. You're part of it. Everybody knows it. You'd be announced, hey, this person, if they wanted to be announced, you can be involved and and you probably could have more enjoyment because it's a little bit of obviously it's a smaller operation than an NBA team. I get the allure of the NBA. It's just the facts are these are part of the sell.
Yeah, so you understand when you say you can own it or you can buy it, there's a fine line there because he's suggesting, hey, you're going to be a big influence on the program and it'll be known that you're the backer of this. Again, as we mentioned during the conversation, like Mike Rapoli, who basically owns St. John's, and Rick Pitino because he's contributing, tens of millions of dollars every year because he wants to be part of the program. Now, where across the line, Willie, is we have talked about private equity buying into, investing in athletic departments like Utah. That is actually owning. That is taking control, and that was not at all what Josh Pastner was pitching. And I think today he finally got to a point after 4 days of this going viral, and he's like, wait a second, that's not what I said.
Again, I just find it, he just made a mistake in saying it how he wanted. Hey, so-and-so come buy our team, come buy. I mean, all he had to do is change it to invest in, and this wouldn't be an issue.
Right. His statement today, he said, I want to clarify my recent comments regarding support for the UNLV men's basketball program. The Runner Rebels are not for sale, and my reference to an, quote, owner was meant to highlight the level of resources, sponsorships, overall support needed to compete in today's evolving college athletics landscape. It went on for another paragraph or so, but if you're putting out a statement on something that you've said 6 or 8 times to people publicly that you believe it's been misconstrued and now it's kind of lost control. And now, of course, people will take that and start to try to delve into what the economics are of UNLV athletics and UNLV basketball. they're doing fine. Would they like an infusion of millions of dollars more into the program to help NIL? Yes. And maybe at a minimum, this will highlight the fact that they are open to it, and it'll generate a few more $1 million. But I don't. Hey, maybe he'll be able to pitch someone behind the scenes to invest 10 or 12 million. God love him if he can. And frankly, hey, this is the reality in college sports, Willie. That is the job of a coach now. You are about raising funds, and we had the conversation a couple weeks ago with Jeff Choate. And Choate explained to me on Radio Row at the Mountain West Conference football media days that when he was complaining about UNLV having more resources, he quickly pointed out to me that, hey, I wasn't just complaining, I was trying to rally the troops up here to explain that UNLV has a big advantage. You need to help. You need to contribute. So there you go. Prime example of what can happen on the internets when things get a little twisted and you can lose control. So I think it's a lesson learned, though, right? Be careful how you say things and who you say things to.
Of course. I mean, it seems to be the thing every day with anything. Watch what you say, watch how you say it, learning lesson, move on.
Well, we're gonna get into this whole thing that's starting to blow up now with the WNBA and Alyssa Smith, and it's something that I've been addressing about the fraternizing with coworkers and how that can go wrong. This is going to blow up. This will be after 5 o'clock. I thought the WNBA All-Star Weekend was interesting. I don't know that there were a ton of winners, but you're going to list the winners. I will list the people I see losing this weekend. But up next here on Cofield and Company, we're about 15 minutes away from Steve Kim, who's going to join us on the WNBA. Also talk about a very busy boxing weekend. But changes are abound because the United States has a lot of influence around the world. A major change happening in Germany because of U.S. culture.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas.
Steve Kim comes up in about 10 minutes right here on Cofield and Company. Just starting off on a Monday. Willie in the Findlay Toyota Studios with James. It's Cofield here on the road for another day and then back in Vegas. But a very busy weekend. A lot of drama, a lot of family drama. Not my family, but lots of families around the world of sports. But one of the neat stories that came out of the World Cup, Willie, was how many international travelers discovered things about the United States maybe they didn't know about. And they're very basic and stuff that we take for granted. Like the amazing amount of gluttonous food that we have. We're masters of reinventing food for gluttons, which I am. And then creature comforts. Like it was kind of mind-boggling how many Europeans came here, and they're like, what is this air conditioning stuff?
You see how that comes right back? Or see the full circle in that? Remember we discussed that how long ago with the TikTok community and the people in the UK, and they're going through a massive heat wave, and they're going through they just went through another wave the past week, and they might be doing a second week this week because they build their homes specifically to insulate for heat, all with brick. And they said that the air cons wouldn't even go. There's some hotels, there are some hospitals. Girl that I talk to all the time on WhatsApp, communicate from Wales. She works in the hospital. She's a registered nurse. No air conditioning in that place. So when they come over here and have the luxury of just blasting their hotel room, it is amazing how you put that we take it for granted. And since meeting these people, I have thought about it when I come home, and there are sometimes, not in July, but there was about 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks, where the temperatures did dip to the 80s. And so that meant that in the early mornings, when my AC was on 70, it was actually really cold in my house, and I'd have to go up to 71. I can literally feel in different areas of my house the difference between 71 and 70. And I'll go, oh, man, I forgot to turn it down to 70. And I'll start feeling the heat, sweating, and I'll go upstairs.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. But and I think about them over there and just picture them all doing their live streaming and how they are just drenched. And the girls who do the get ready with me makeup tutorials or the ones that are coming up, and they've moved they've moved their location of where they're doing their streaming to outside, and they're just their hair is different. It's not all done. It's matted, and they're sweaty. It's wild.
So you ready for a couple of thoughts from a soccer influencer under Fiago, who's up on Twitter with like 150,000 followers. First thing he sent back, or was writing in the last 24 hours, he said, first night back in Germany from the U.S., and I can't lie, I'm very close to buying AC unit for my bedroom. So he was introduced to the world of AC, and he'll be to the point where he's like Willie, where he can tell the difference between 70 and 71.
I can tell. I could tell, and I don't like it. It's hot, and a couple of rooms in my house are the subject of the sun for the majority of the day, where the sun's circulating. And even if I keep the window coverings, it doesn't matter. Those rooms are hot.
Yeah,
and I'm not happy about it.
This guy also said later, pointing out about what he enjoyed about New York City, he said, I love New York City so much because I can let out my European urge to walk a lot. 5 days in NYC, always 20,000 plus steps. A walkable city is a real freedom. I don't think Americans appreciate walkable cities as much as we should. And Vegas is not a walkable city, unfortunately. You have to make an effort to walk. It's
Unless you're a tourist, because they don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you kind of have to walk on the Strip, and unless you're going from monorail to tram to monorail. But we're not as walkable as we need to be. Yeah,
like in general, like in just, I'm going to walk to work, or I'm going to walk here. No, that doesn't happen.
Another tweet referencing the U.S. from this Fiago. It's almost midnight in Germany. I'm fully awake and jet lagged from my U.S. trip, and I am hungry. I am missing Hattie B's right now.
Oh.
Which is a Nashville hot chicken joint.
The late night availability of food anywhere that you want. That's you know what I get a kick out of, though. I will tell you this: I get a kick out of in the UK when they order their food. Like McDonald's is exceptionally popular, but the thing is, the regulations of the FDA and the government, they don't allow for additives and whatever they put in their foods over there. They're very strict with their regulations, whereas here, which is why we see so many obesity is at such a big number, but over there, I don't want to call their fast food healthy, but it's healthier than it is in America. And by the way, they have mozzarella sticks at Mickey D's in the UK.
Oh wow!
They don't have that here. The two big ones there are Mickey D's and KFC.
It's pretty amazing. Now, you if you have self-control, you can avoid being a lard ass, but it's pretty amazing the benefits if you're looking to make money from having a really fat society. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many things across the board where people can make money off us being chubbos. You're not a chubbo, but you get my point.
Oh, I'm a chubbo.
Up next, WNBA All-Star Weekend was on the radar of Jason Whitlock, and boy, oh boy, Willie's going to hear some stuff that they ran with it. There was a lot of stuff they did not like. I wasn't super impressed with some of the looks of the game, but Steve Kim's going to jump in. We'll talk a little boxing, talk a little WNBA, and some college football as well here on a Monday.
Now back to Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas.
8 trips in 8 weeks. Load of summer fun rolling on. This is week 7. We've got another trip. This one celebrating America 250 with the Grand Canyon and Sedona. Each day of the week, we give out a keyword of the day for our summer of fun. That's brought to you by Terribles, Baylaw Injury Attorneys, and ESPN Las Vegas. Keyword of the day is red, R-E-D, red, red, red. Text that in to 702-364-1100, 702-364-1100, and you are in the drawing for the vacation as part of our big America 250 celebration. Let's bring in Steve Kim as he joins us every Monday to hit what's hot in the world of sports. Steve, how you doing, buddy?
Good Monday to you guys.
Well, Let's start out. By the way, I watched you on Whitlock and Fearless, and holy crap, that was a full episode, all WNBA. He did like 40 minutes by himself. He brought you in. I saw your comments a la Michael Corleone with you being sucked back in on the WNBA. He is unstoppable, and this weekend was like absolute red meat for Jason Whitlock with the WNBA.
Yeah, I just, when I saw the tweet when the game was going on, some people said, oh, good, now he'll stop talking about it. I'm like, people, do you not understand Jason Flip Lock? This is blood in the water to Jaws 1, 2, and 3. D. I mean, I was like, oh, God. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, training camps for football, college and pro, start in about a week or so. Let's get it all out of the system. Let's get it. Because, by the way, on the rundown that we get before each show, Steve, there are other topics that had nothing to do with the WNBA. We never even got to them.
I was like, I figured he had, let's do 20 minutes on the WNBA and then lots of other topics for another 25 minutes. Never got to it. Well, I mean, the league is the league that kind of keeps providing good talk topics and outrage for some people. What'd you make of the America 250 patches and what Breonna Turner said about why they didn't want to put on the America 250 patches on the WNBA All-Star jerseys?
Well, as I said before, it's on brand. I mean, it is the philosophy of grievance, and it is the grievance culture. And that league, more than anyone, by far leans into it. So I honestly think it would have been a bigger story and a bigger surprise if they would have actually worn it. I mean, just based on the way a lot of those individuals react to the national anthem or collectively as a team. So that doesn't surprise me. Everything that they do, I kind of respect their consistency, but at the same time, they do wonder why a wide swath of America just will never support them. That's it right there.
Would this be an issue if Kamala Harris was in office?
Thankfully, that never happened. Thank God. Thank God we can't undo what was not done or whatever gobbledygook she said. But that's a good point, Willie. Would they feel differently about this country if that tragedy would have occurred? Boy, I would say, yeah, I think they'd be more tolerant, and I think they would be satiated, at least for the time being.
You seem to suggest, and you didn't get a chance to expound on it, that the way that WNBA, some of the players rep themselves from time to time is actually just a microcosm of what goes on in society.
Yeah. I mean, look at it. To me, sports mirrors society, and society will mirror sports. And when you see some of the stuff going on in real life, it's not really stunning to me that people who play sports will have the same type of beliefs. In many respects, what you see from athletes throughout the years, going all the way back to the turn of the century in the 1900s, for the Depression, through the, World War I and II, Civil Rights era, the 70s, or certainly the 60s, it mirrors one another. So it doesn't really outrage me. It really doesn't, especially for a league I don't care about. And I certainly believe in the First Amendment right. They have the right to believe whatever they want. I have the right to disagree with it and not support it. I think that's completely fair. But this particular league, the WNBA, they have a philosophical belief. They will not stray from it. And I think that is one of the reasons why Caitlin Clark has become such a polarizing figure in 2026.
Do you believe that they should consider themselves role models, or is that just something dopey from the past with all athletes?
I certainly don't think those ladies are role models. Hopefully they are not.
Right.
But to the degree that they might have any type of influence on the younger generation, that might be troublesome if you are a parent. That I will say. I don't believe it is the jobs of the athletes to raise anyone else's kids. We all know about that famous Charles Barkley ad that, hey, none of us are role models. I think what he was saying is, to parents, do not shirk your responsibilities. However, here's the issue. When you have a percentage or whoever is only coming up with a non-traditional nuclear family with two parents, these types of things that they see, these images or the behavior that is amplified, yes, that they can become very, very persuasive.
Steve Kim is with us. He's part of the cast on Fearless, Steve Kim 323 up on Twitter. Now, the other story that came out of the weekend, and I think this is a much bigger story than has been covered. I've been trying to go down this path because I think it legitimately talks about or deals with personnel issues, trying to build a team, and that is, I don't know who Maurice is, but I thought he did a really good job on Fearless today, but he had talked about the league not being covered in the past, and before Caitlin Clark came along, as he put it, this was a 180-member Tinder app where they could do their hooping and humping in secret. It is a very interesting league because we don't have any other league in the United States where workplace relationships can happen, and guess what? That can eventually lead to discord and issues on a roster. It can also lead to trades where you're like, hey, we just got to get this person the hell out of here. It's a very fascinating league on that front, especially with the stuff that was coming out with Nalissa Smith and Dejanay Carrington again.
Well, Steve, I've never seen a league book. I'm sure that all leagues have like these sordid affairs, things that you would not necessarily want out there. But I don't think the players themselves are actually advertising it on social media and airing their dirty laundry. Like, I don't really know of a lot of NBA players that's, oh, man, I was at the strip club last night, blew $50K, and I went home with the stripper. I hope she's not pregnant. That in essence, if that was a tweet, that would be something that I would, yes, if it happened or took place with a WNBA player, something of that realm, it wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that stuff goes on, but I think the difference is they want to keep it under wraps. And you guys also pointed out there was a whole club scene with Willie. What's the whole Buds and Suds or something? Because they were videoing some club scenes. What's their names again?
Stud Buds did a 72-hour stream from start to finish,
okay.
And they never. The only time that it went dark, but it stayed live is when they went to sleep. And so you had people going into their Twitch room going, oh, hurry up and wake up, hurry and wake up. The difference between the Stud Buds this year and the Stud Buds last year, like last year, it seemed a little bit more organic and fun where it was everywhere, orange carpet, and they did that this year. But they really seemed to embrace the partying aspect of it more than they did last year. And I could be wrong, but that's because that's what flooded social media more than anything was the drinking.
Yeah, I mean, again, professional athletes are going to act a certain way. None of us are naive. They're not drinking milk at night, okay? They're not. But, the only time years ago you'd really ever find out about it is when Jim Bouton wrote a book, Ball 4. And that's why that book was so salacious in nature, according to a lot of people. It was almost taboo. Now you kind of know what's going on. You got social media. But I don't know of any other set of athletes, right? I don't see a lot of NFL players. Let's say they play a big playoff game or that Pro Bowl weekend for whatever that's worth in Las Vegas. I don't know if any of them would want to be on a live stream for more than a minute.
Exactly.
They would be like, whatever we're doing, whatever debauchery, whatever decadence we're involved in, we're going to keep that very, very private.
Okay, and here it comes, because I try to avoid this, and as much as I support the WNBA, but I'm going to say it. You're absolutely right. The NHL, the NBA, the NHL, they are partiers. They love to party. NBA, we know they love to party. They will not do live streams on Twitch. And you know why the WNBA are comfortable in doing it? Because they're just uncomfortable in saying, leave us alone, we're women. Why are you attacking? The mansplaining. Women, they have become comfortable in using their argument that they are not targets and they can't be sexualized or objectified and this, that, the other. They've become so comfortable in being defensive that now they can act as if they can do whatever they want to do without being ridiculed and criticized. So when the columns come out this week and ridiculed, They better not think that it's okay to defend on that respect. And I've never really got on them about using that defense mechanism, but this is an exact example of what you just said, Steve, that you don't see the other leagues doing this, but that's why they do it, because they feel that they have a defense mechanism built in.
Yeah, I guess that's one hell of a defense. I don't know if I'd go with that, but look, I think there's a defiance, there's a petulance to that league. By the way, Willie, I saw clips of the All-Star. Did you actually watch most of the All-Star game, Willie? I know you're a fan.
I had it on in the background, but I didn't. I couldn't. I watched the first quarter, and I was like, okay, they're not even doing anything. I mean, Caitlin threw up 3 uncontested threes, and then at the other side they were challenging, and then between Paige and Sonia Citra, everyone was throwing up uncontested. I was like, okay, they're not playing defense. So I just went about my business and went back to doing what I was doing. So I didn't sit there glued, like I wasn't watching it like I watch a game. No.
Okay. All right. Good for you. I felt bad for you, Will, if you actually subjected
yourself
to
that. I was actually more intrigued and I was bought into wanting to watch the 3-point shootout for 2 reasons. One, I had already wanted to watch it, but then the night before when I saw the clips of the 2 favorites and a couple of other competitors drinking with the stud buds, AZ Fudd, Marina Mabry, and I had written some previews, I was like, wow, if you're betting on this, and you're sitting there watching them StreamYard that they're out drinking, and now they got to show up. Yep. Kudos to AZ Fudd, by the way, because she was doing shots the night before, and she showed up and crushed it. But that was the one thing I wanted to watch was the 3-point shootout.
Now, fellas, when does the WNBA season mercifully end for all of us?
September, October.
Yeah. And by the way, this is Willie's beat. I mean, he is a basically a, I'm not going to say full-time, but he covers the WNBA, so he's seeing all this stuff. And I didn't even realize there was that much partying going on. And from a gambling standpoint, that I better be careful if I'm betting on the 3-point contest. We got 2 minutes left, Steve. Steve Kim is with us. Great unboxing. SteveKim.substack.com to sign up for all of his newsletters multiple times a week. Okay, what exactly happened this weekend with? Well, I'm going to cut to the chase. I know what happened with Fury. With Anthony Joshua, who was this guy he was going against? Because he did have some trouble early on, then he finished him. Does that worry you about AJ and big fights coming up?
Yeah, they thought they carefully hand-selected a guy that was going to be easy, except they forgot one thing. This guy could still throw punches. And as I wrote, who's a dangerous puncher for Anthony Joshua? Anyone that can throw punches. And it was kind of farcical. In the first 30 seconds, Joshua was toppling to the canvas, and then he got drilled once again. And then the second round, the other guy kind of didn't press his advantage. I'll just leave it at that, and some people are suspicious. But, guys, if the goal this week was to whet the appetite internationally and domestically in the UK for the Fury-Joshua fight, they failed. Now, will that hurt the interest in the fight? Probably not. But it reconfirms everything that this fight is at least 4 or 5 years too late in the making.
Yeah. Steve Kim is with us. Conclusions out of Zoo and Spence.
One guy was much more faded than the other, and I didn't understand all of these people that thought Spence was going to win the fight. Really, I didn't. I actually thought Zoo was going to knock him out, and if Zoo wasn't so faded, let's say it was a Zoo of 3 years ago, I think he would have done that. But he's been through the meat grinder himself in recent fights, and I'm glad to see Errol Spence has made the decision to walk away from the ring. It was a very productive and highly lucrative career. Something to be proud of.
Steve Kim with us. We got a minute left. You had retweeted something today that I think is worth following. Again, it would be incredibly intrusive to really follow it, but with college football kickoff just 33 days away, Jordan Seaton, the Colorado kid, went to LSU, and you had something from someone who calls themselves DJ Academics, and they were sort of going down the line about, we're sort of, I didn't know who he was, but he's going down the line of Jordan Seaton is dating an older woman, and that this could be a trend we see in the future with older women now preying on these young college athletes?
Yes, that's already happened in the NBA. Yeah. They are now targets. And there was an NBA player that was married to one of these women that was in her late 30s. And then Ryan Williams at Alabama, he's with an older woman that already has a child. So, yeah, that particular trend is already started, Steve.
Wow. All right, Steve, have a good week. We'll talk to you, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
We'll be looking for a lot more WNBA material on Fearless. Check it out every day with Jason Whitlock.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas and ESPN Reno.
Four o'clock hours here. It's brought to you by Battleborn Injury Lawyers. Willie Ramirez, Steve Cofield, James is running the show. Willie, early in the show, you were trying to you were trying to ask what I had done this weekend since I am spending a little time back in my home state of New Jersey down by the Jersey Shore. What did you want to ask?
I wish you would have live streamed it.
I should have live streamed last night because I forgot what places like Seaside, which is, if people don't know where the show Jersey Shore was originally filmed, that place on the weekends with, as we Jersey Shore people call them, the Bennies in town. It's a very interesting place. I had a big smile on my face walking up and down the boardwalk as I watched people shack the fool.
I didn't want to ask anything specific. I just was wondering what kind of trouble you got into.
I don't get in trouble.
You used to.
Get in trouble.
You're a shenanigans kind of guy.
I do at home. You know what? When I don't have running mates, and that could be the SO or it could be just friends, less trouble happens. I'm more responsible when I'm by myself. I need bad influences to get crazy. I'm also old. I'm also old. I'm losing the ability to get crazy.
You didn't meet up with old fellas. I got a little crazy yesterday.
You know what's funny about? I'm going to ask you about that in a second. I did meet up with old fellas, old friends, but they're getting old. I think I actually trend the youngest of all of them. So,
really,
actually, one who is 56 was telling me that his gig was coming to a close and he was being handed a forced retirement. And I said to him, I was like, well, what are you going to do? What kind of job are you going to look for once you take your payoff package? And he's like, no, I might retire. And I'm like, retire? 56? I'm like, hello. Very interesting. Makes us both feel good.
Good
yeah,
for him.
I know.
Good for him.
There ain't no retiring in sports media at 56. Did you get into any trouble this weekend?
I didn't get into trouble, but I had some shenanigans. I was just gonna gym and write yesterday.
Yes.
Actually, you know what I was gonna do? To be honest with you, you bring up Jersey Shore, I was gonna GTL yesterday, and nothing else. I was gonna write during the L part. I was gonna gym, tan, laundry, and my son called me and said, "Pops, what are you doing?" And I said, "I'm getting ready to go to the gym in a little bit. I'm laying down, resting off this morning's work. I'm going to go to the gym, do a little tanning, the laundry, and some writing. I got a huge project." And he said, "Nah, get your ass over here. Spend some time spend some time with your son, your daughter-in-law, and your grandson. I'm going to the store to pick up some beer and a bottle, burgers, and dogs. Get in the pool."
Look at you.
So I said, okay. I packed up the laptop, went over to his house, and spent some time in the pool with the little 2-year-old and Jordan, and we shot the water guns at Raiden's mom, and he made these little very innocent cocktails. It was perfect too, because I'm thinking. I told him, I was like, dude, don't go crazy with the tequila. I'm not doing shots in the middle of 115 degree heat. But he just made these little drinks. So it was like barely snippets, but you could taste it, and the burgers, and so you didn't really feel it. It was just kind of a nice, relaxing day. Took a nap. We listened, or not a nap, but a little siesta. We laid back, listened to some music, hung out, and then went home eventually. And so yeah, could have got reckless, but didn't.
Big Four time.
Battleborn Injury Lawyers presents the Big Four at 4. Number 4.
Well, there is no smooth segue for talking about family time and then transitioning to Eric Bieniemy and the story out of Kansas City and Virginia. The Chiefs, yet again, are dealing with a crazy family-related situation. We don't have a lot of details on this, but the OC, once again, with the KC Chiefs, Eric Bieniemy, former NFL player, his wife was shot in Virginia And then we find out a few hours later that it was their son who shot her. We don't have a lot of details on this one, but that is a crazy story, and it's one of the craziest in Chiefs' recent history. But it is a weird organization that has been snake-bitten by drama and issues with the Reed family, drama and issues with the Mahomes family, and the wackiest thing of all of this is the most high-profile couple, or one of them, in this country, Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, are the ones who actually don't really provide a whole lot of drama.
Okay.
Can you imagine if the Chiefs went to Kelce and they're like, hey, let's tamp it down a little bit with the drama, and Kelce would be like, my drama? Look at the rest of you freaking lunatics.
Well, here's the thing. I saw what you put for the top, for the rundown, and I said to myself, I get what you're saying, the first part, but then you said of all people that they don't have from. Why would you expect that? They're just normal people.
Oh, I think organizations look at celebrity couples as just freaking potential.
Sure,
gasoline.
Think,
that there'd be drama and paparazzi, and for the most part, they kind of lay low. And she gets to the stadium. You really haven't heard a whole lot of things of them having trouble with each other or trouble in public. Like
they're normal.
It seems like a nice relationship.
They're just billionaire. Well, she is, and he's just a Super Bowl champion athlete. They're trying to live their best life. I mean, hey, we can't all get married at Madison Square Garden. But what?
Let me correct you. He's a billionaire as well. He's married to a billionaire. He's a billionaire.
He's now a billionaire. Yep. I'm just saying. I just found it funny. You're like, of all people that don't have drama, they're just trying. It's kind of like we talked about with LeBron last week, where of all the GOAT talk that we talk about different people, when it comes to off the court issues in his private life, it's not really a lot to go on with This isn't the WNBA, Steve.
All right, number 3.
Number 3.
I waited through the weekend to get to the nitty-gritty of this Diego Pavia story. There's not much to the story. He got cut by the Ravens. He is now free to go where he wants. I want to see Diego Pavia get a chance to play some pro football. I don't think he's ready for the NFL. I'm not sure he'll ever be ready for the NFL. But that doesn't mean he can't make money playing professional football somewhere. And he's a little guy, but there's been plenty of undersized guys who have gone and played somewhere and made money and been really entertaining. What is the best path for Diego Pavia? Because I think the owners of the UFL, and we're going to mention this guy Mike Rapoli again, who's the St. John's backer, I think the UFL should be all over him.
Yeah.
And the CFL actually, I think it's is it Winnipeg? Is it the Blue Bombers who have the rights to Diego Pavia? So I think there's going to be 2 leagues that really want Pavia to play in their league, and if he can play, then he's going to play.
Yeah, it's just a matter of where, and something tells me that the CFL, he'd be better off going to the CFL. I don't know why. I couldn't give you stats. I couldn't give you. There's just something. This maybe the UFL has come on strong, and it's been there, right? But the sustainability in the long term, and maybe the relationship that it possibly has with the NFL, I think the CFL would be good for him. But and if he has a choice between a practice squad and the CFL and playing, I say you go play. And I think I think either way will benefit him, but I think he's the type of guy that his competitive drive. We've heard how he talks. He belongs on the field somewhere. If an NFL team wants him, they're going to get him. They're going to come get him. And I have a feeling that at some point he will be on an NFL team. It's a matter of when.
I guess my worry with the CFL, and maybe this shows my ignorance in how the CFL is covered, and it is a big deal. I kind of feel like if he goes to the CFL, that he's mostly going to be out of sight, out of mind. That's a very American attitude that, hey, you got to play somewhere in the United States to have people paying attention.
Yeah.
Like, I think he'd get some benefit, but I don't think he'd get the publicity that he probably seeks. Mm. So maybe he waits around until the spring and plays football then, or, and at least try to latch on with someone. There's enough practice squad spots around the NFL that I think someone could afford one spot to have him on a roster, no?
100%. And he's good enough to be there. It's just a matter of fit. It really does come down to a matter of fit. And, I mean, he's kind of one of those guys that you're waiting to prove the doubters wrong. and he's the type of guy that can do it. It's which team. Does a team lose somebody to injury where something opens up and they give him a shot as the number 3? Again, I don't think it's a matter of if. I think it's a matter of when.
Number 2.
Willie, we briefly mentioned one of the stories that came out of WNBA All-Star Weekend, and that was the America 250 patch. And Brianna Turner spoke on this. You have any reaction? Because this is going to blow up as it gets a little more attention. Turner wrote, the irony of all the USA 250 stuff is that the vast majority of people in America today would not have been free 250 years ago. So the America 250 patch was not on the WNBA uniforms. Are you offended?
I just have mixed reactions because I wonder how much, the WNBA is very is in terms of like pioneerish. I know that's not a word, but in terms of taking a stance, they were one of the first outside of Colin Kaepernick. They were one of the first ones in 2020 to stand 10 toes down on, protesting and whatnot. Again, I asked that earnestly to Steve. He took it a different direction in terms of voicing his political opinion. I just asked him if he thought it would be different if Kamala was in office, and I think that it would be, and I think that they wouldn't. I think the climate of today's society weighs heavily on decisions that are made when it comes to, representing the country or decisions of that. Like, for instance, majority of the teams leave the court. They don't kneel. It's not disrespectful, in my opinion. They just leave the court. They go back for their final team hoorah during the national anthem. There's a couple of teams that stay on the court. Would that happen? Let's just say, for instance, I don't even know what happened during the All-Star game when former President Barack Obama was supposedly I didn't see it because I didn't watch the game intently, but and if they're standing at attention, I don't know. But what I can say is this: I'm not black. So I am not qualified to answer a question as to how they feel about their ancestry and, what that means from 250 years ago. I'm not qualified to talk about what it feels like to be a black person in 2026 and still be discriminated against, or as a black man that steps into an elevator. I use this example all the time. Stepping into an elevator with a woman who shifts her purse from one side to the other. I don't know what that feels like, and I'll never know what that feels like because I'm not black. So to comment on whether it's right or wrong, I can't because I don't know what that's. I don't know.
Top story.
Number 1.
So the business of the WNBA All-Star Game did well, right, Willie? It was a sellout. Ticket prices were on the secondary market were a record.
It was, and I think it's an excitement for a number of reasons. You have a sprinkling of an era that was before Asia Wilson's era. You have the Asia Wilson era of greatness that's part of this this season. And then you have the future of the WNBA as a whole. Not just Caitlin Clark, not just Angel Reese, but you now have Paige Beckers, you have AZ Fudd, you have Sonia Citron, you have a lot of the newer faces now. I mean, we have a pretty good idea of who the faces of not just the WNBA will be in 10 years, but Team USA, right? And who's going to be representing America, by the way. So I think that there's a lot of excitement around it. 19,783 fans showed up at the United Center. And it was a great turnout for the night before, for the skills competitions. Right, where they had the teams with one legend, and I think Team Washington won it with Elena Deladon, which was cool. I like Elena Deladon. I've always liked Elena Deladon. And then AZ Feld went in the 3-point shootout. So very good response. Not sure how the response was to Kathy Engelbert's speech, but
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas and ESPN Reno.
A little more coming up on the WNBA All-Star Game and some of those potential personnel issues around the league. We'll get to that in the 5 o'clock hour. I wanted to mention a few things about the game itself, and then news out of North Carolina, some college football news with Belichick's family, as we're talking about rough family news around the world of sports coming out of the weekend. Little discord developing with an NFL story here, Willie. Vita Vea, who's an amazing defensive tackle, now 31 years old, in his last year of his current contract. He's on a 4-year, $71 million contract. Going to earn $17 million this season, but none of it is guaranteed. Has officially requested a trade. Now, I generally don't get super involved in NFL negotiation issues because it seems like most of the time the deals get worked out. But is this something the Raiders should monitor? Should they have interest in a big money defensive tackle at 31 years old to anchor their defensive line?
There's no
or are they not in a stage right now where they should be spending for the current team?
For the current team, why? Because it's not a win now mentality, and they're building for the future. I think
Right.
If you're building for the future, the building starts now. So it's not a bad thought. I don't think it's a priority, especially with what he could be looking to earn, or he's set to earn $17 million this season. He's 31 years old. So if you're not trying to win now? The question is, can he be healthy if you're trying to grab him and sign him through a 4-year deal? So all of a sudden he's 35. Can you use that money or half of that for a younger guy? So I don't know if it's worth it. If they were in a win now situation, I guess that answers your question or it goes to your point. It's what I think it's more or less what they believe his sustainability is, his durability is, as he gets older, because he is 31.
He's the kind of guy that if you go back a few years when things were going well in Patriot land, that could join up with a Belichick, a defensive guru, and go on a couple-of-year deal and go to try and win. That would be kind of the attractive thing for a guy like Vita Vea. So we'll think about what organizations would be attractive for him. Now, I bring up Belichick also because there was breaking news this morning out of Chapel Hill where Team Belichick took a knock as Michael Lombardi, who's a longtime Belichick devotee, has been put on leave by North Carolina. Something job-related. Not sure if it's, one report said HR complaint-related. Others are suggesting maybe it's something to do with compliance. My first thought that I raced to was HR, but I guess we'll see where this goes. Now, here's the intriguing thing with Michael Lombardi. First of all, he was making $1.5 million to be their football GM. They went 4-8 last year. I don't know anyone that said they freaking lit it up on the recruiting trail or the transfer portal trail this last offseason, so maybe moving along is a blessing. But I wonder what's going on here with Michael Lombardi, and I will tell you this. We will find out, because there are times you can act like a tough guy and you bring on unintended consequences, because Lombardi's been very vocal and pushing back on people. The other conciliary there, Jordan Hudson, has been very vocal and very much in attack dog mode. And one of the people she did attack was Pablo Torre, who has very much gotten into investigative reporting. And I bet you he is real incentivized right now to get to the bottom of why Michael Lombardi has been suspended at North Carolina.
Well, she's going to find out real quick why you don't poke the bear, that being the media. And
especially now, Willie, because the traditional media is one thing. Now you've got a whole set of influencers who, if they want to sink their teeth into it, they will not stop, and they're sort of nameless and faceless. So you don't even know who you're fighting against.
Well, yeah, you never know when you're getting caught on film, a la stud buds.
Yeah. Well, they're that's a weird thing. Well, again, we'll get into that in the 5 o'clock hour. Listen to Pablo Torre on Le Batard Show as he talks about the strange case of who Michael Lombardi is. He always seems to be around Belichick. He keeps getting jobs, high-paying jobs, thinks a lot of himself, and right now he's facing some sort of issues at North Carolina. Here's Pablo Torre.
And Mike Lombardi, from the beginning, has worn this trail of not just unlikability, and he was described to me as one of the top 5 least liked people in the entire NFL, but just like actual outright dysfunction. He's had a bit of a pattern of disappearing from jobs, including in the media. He went to Saudi Arabia mysteriously to raise money for North Carolina. We broke that story. That was last summer. He is somebody who has embellished his resume repeatedly. He wrote in his book about how crucial a part he was of the 49ers championship team. And then we talked to Bill Walsh's son, who said, he was getting sandwiches.
Okay. That sounds like quite the embellishment. I'm a key member of the organization and winning Super Bowls. Bruh, you were getting sandwiches. Chill out. But there's a lot. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but there's always something with Michael Lombardi. You remember back, Al Davis was not very fond of him. There was a famous quote of him shredding Michael Lombardi. And yet, Willie, the Raiders actually had one of his kids come in for a year and sort of serve as the OC/quarterback coach at the time. What was the Lombardi kid's name? The younger kid? Now I'm blanking on it.
Yeah.
But that was a strange one. So he's got enough friends in the NFL to get his son's jobs. I also found it interesting. Did you hear Torrey said he's disappeared at times, including media jobs?
Yeah, what does he mean by that?
I don't know which media job. I do know that his...
It was Mick, by the way, Mick Lombardi.
Mick Lombardi, yeah. His behavior and, we'll say, consistency in doing the job, from what I've heard at VSiN, was less than stellar. And some of the stories I heard led me to believe that the HR part of this issue was probably the stronger case, but I'm not sure now. But you'll remember Michael Lombardi was given a morning show with 2 other folks from out of the region, and that show lasted, I think, less than 6 months. And I think Lombardi was like real gung-ho on blaming the other 2 hosts, but I think he deserved plenty of the blame as well. So doing morning shows, and as you found out, Willie, right, doing 3-hour shows 5 days a week, you have to be kind of consistent, If you're in and out, and I'm not ripping you. I'm just saying, like, you weren't doing radio 15 years ago. Like, it does take a little, if there's days where you're bored or you don't feel like humping it in terms of the prep, then it's going to show on the air. And that was an issue with Michael Lombardi. And not to annihilate the guy or take shots at him, but it doesn't matter because I'm not going to be doing the investigative look. It's going to be Pablo Torre, and I am really fascinated to see what he comes up with this leave of absence. Well, he's been put on admin leave for Michael Lombardi in North Carolina. We'll find out, I'm sure, at some point what was going on and what the issues are.
Sounds like how you described me for today. Kind of just reflective on the air.
No. I was actually just hoping you would say, yeah, you know what, radio is not that easy all the time.
It's not that. It's not. And I will say this with I'm not. I know you hate when I do this, and I'm not glazing, but when I first started. And I was asked to, hey, can you come in for 1 hour? And then it was, hey, can you come in and be a guest for the entire show? And you were eventually like, hey, you've been doing this long enough. Let's get you paid. Let's bring you on. But here's how it's done. And you got to turn this in by 11, we like to have it in by 11. I'm late more than anybody. But as far as sending topics, there's a process. And then the days where I'm leading the show, and there are times when I was doing other shows during the weekend, and you're cutting sound, and you're doing this, and you're doing that, and all of a sudden, a 2-hour show is actually a 10-hour process. Yeah. And I don't think people realize it.
Yeah, you want to make sure you don't sound like a jackass on the air, right? It's you who's.
Well, I still sound like one, but nevertheless.
No, you don't. So there you go with Michael Lombardi. We'll see another issue now with North Carolina football, and I think the biggest issue is going to be if they can actually go to a bowl game, and they better go to a bowl game because, by the way, you remember when Michael Lombardi got the job, he was crowing about how North Carolina would be the 33rd NFL franchise. You went 4-8. I will also bring it back up that when last year before the season, Colin Cowherd was talking about how Belichick was probably better than all but like 2 of the coaches in the ACC, and of course he was going to win 8 or 9 games, and that did not at all prove to be true. You know, one of the things that got buried from SEC Media Day last week and the Media Days, Big Ten Media Days are coming up. One of the things that got buried because it happened on Friday, did you see Nick Saban? First of all, Saban is very comfortable referencing his discussions about the SEC as us. I don't see the need for that. And then the latest doozy with him was he said just because the Big Ten has won the recent national titles, winning national titles doesn't mean that you're the best conference. I'm like, wait a second. But that was the calling card for the SEC all those years when they were winning national championships. Now it doesn't mean that much?
Of course
Come
not.
on now, Nick.
Yeah. A little hypocritical. The part about weed, I don't think that's going to go away. I mean, we hear former athletes that jump on the when they jump on the broadcast mic, and they still refer to their former teams as we.
Coming up next, our AA Spotlight, another big series coming up against the Red Sox.
It's reserved. It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas and ESPN Reno.
Well, before the break, I misspoke a little bit. There is no such thing now as a big series for the A's. They've kind of more than fallen apart. It's a big series for the Red Sox because the Red Sox ripped off that long winning streak, and they've gotten themselves back into the AL East race and the AL playoff race. But the A's have just played so poorly that now the goal is, at least individually, try to get the young guys as much playing time as possible, get them playing well, discover some arms and get some confidence for the arms that you have so that you're heading to the offseason feeling a lot better than the way the pitching has been. You know, one of those guys, well, Jeff Springs is now down with an injury. One of those guys is Jacob Lopez, and I said before the weekend, you know, he pitched really pretty effectively in the second half last year, and I'm not saying he's a long-range guy, but get him going in the right direction, and he did have a good game, solid start over the weekend with 5 innings, and I think it was 1 hit and no runs. But they keep getting more bad breaks. Our A's Spotlight here at 4:35 every day. Now Shea Langoliers may be down for the entire season with a torn meniscus in his knee. I mean, my God.
Well, they're losing guys, but they're losing guys that are productive anyway. So, I mean, you don't want to – I'm not saying that it's good that they're injured, but at the same token, get some guys in that maybe can show some life. And you know, you're going to get guys that are going to get – if they call people up from Vegas, it's quite possible that they're going to come in looking to prove – you know, I write this all the time when I'm writing sports betting analysis, like, hey – this guy's getting called up for 2 weeks while someone's on the injured list. He's going to want to prove his worth, especially when you have a team that's vying for a wild card spot or whatever. Because once they expand the rosters in September for a playoff, they extend it to playoff roster length. Then, you know, so you're going to get the best out of somebody. So I'm not saying it's a good thing that people are injured, but at the same token, you're losing guys that aren't doing anything anyway, so make the most of it and try to.
Well, but in the case of Shea Langoliers, he was having a monster season. He's a great influence on the clubhouse. He's obviously an above-average catcher in terms of
I was
defense.
meaning staff.
So.
I'm sorry. I'm talking about the pitching.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I get you.
Well, Langoliers went down, and it may be for the season. I don't see Soderstrom going back behind the plate. I don't know what they're going to do at catcher because they moved on from Daniel Susak, who – got Rule 5 over, I think it was Rule 5, over to the Giants. I would expect Jonah Heim actually to be a candidate to be traded, which, again, brings us to what's going on with the trade deadline. Text coming in at 702-364-1100 on our Bay Law injury attorney text line. Someone said, I have a lot of complaints about this year's squad, but please explain to me why Jeff McNeil ever plays at this point. Well, I think now they're probably showcasing him because he is a candidate to go somewhere, good, you know, solid veteran hitter who can play multiple positions on the infield. So he's being showcased. The person says, hell, at this point, release him and call Muncy back up. I think McNeil has a little bit of trade value. And listen, anyone you can spin off if you're the A's in a trade, now the job with personnel is to stockpile as many freaking arms in the minors as possible. They just need volume. because it hasn't worked out with a lot of guys to this point. They need to get arms, no doubt. So that was Dennis up on our Bay Law injury attorney text line. Red Sox are in Sacramento, followed by the Tigers. Red Sox are in for 4 games, and man, oh man, they are playing good baseball right now. They've won 6 straight series. And you know the thing the Red Sox, I think, have been most impressive with is developing young pitchers. Over the weekend, one of their young prospects, who's hurt right now, Connolly Early, they moved him to go get Curtis Mead with the Nats. So they've got so much young pitching depth. They were like, yeah, we'll take a guy who's pretty valued, and let's go get someone for our lineup who can play multiple positions. So Red Sox got off to a terrible start. They finally started winning games. They had that long win streak, and now they're building blocks to really this solid starting pitching they have and a rotation headed up by Sonny Gray.
Yeah, and one of the toughest things to do is find sustainability during a win streak because you count on your offenses. 22-4 run going into tonight, 2.82 ERA in that 26 games.
Coming up, John Browner. You can find him on Browner's podcast. He's part of the crew with the Sporting Tribune. We'll get into LeBron in Philly with the initial stories coming out of Philadelphia and how this is going to work.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas and ESPN Reno.
Big weekend and big weeks on the way, even though the NBA season is still far away. But LeBron James picked Philadelphia. He's going to be a Sixer. Let's bring in John Browner, who talks NBA with us and everything Southern California from the Sporting Tribune. John is up with Cofield and Willie. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, brother?
Were you happy about LeBron going to Philadelphia? Because I was overjoyed. I was over the moon, but I'm also very much a LeBron stan. What do you think?
I thought the move more attractively would have been Golden State, but I totally get why he chose Philadelphia. He lied to us from the beginning. And this is why I was so confused about how it ended up working out the way it did. Because initially he said he wanted to hang out with his friends, drink wine, play golf, and then occasionally play basketball. And I'm like, okay, well, that's Golden State. That makes sense. And then he said he brought his family. So he talked to his daughter, which, nobody can be against that. He talked to his daughter, and he wanted to make this decision based on, how she felt about it. And then at the end of it, he said, this wasn't about my family. This was about money. This is about competing. It's about winning. And if you would have said that from the beginning, it would have been Philadelphia. I think the mixes of teams and what people thought, the odds, would have been vastly different if he'd have just been honest and said, I want to win another championship. Because I would have said Philly 1,000% if he'd have said that, but he didn't.
Should Philadelphia be the favorite now in the Eastern Conference?
No. So LeBron's 42. If this was 35-year-old LeBron, I know that sounds crazy to say if this was 35-year-old LeBron, but if this was 35-year-old LeBron, get ready to have multiple parades. But because this is 42-year-old LeBron, I think we have to see it. I mean, again, we're adding Jaylen Brown, who's an alpha, Finals MVP, NBA champion, to a roster with an often injured Joel Embiid, and then 2 really young guys, but 2 really good young guys. And so I think there's going to be some push and pull about who's in charge. Now, it should be Embiid when he's healthy, but he's too often not healthy. So if it's Jaylen Brown and LeBron, at this point in their career, who's a better basketball player? It's Jaylen Brown. And so the idea of, who's going to do what, I think we need to see it in camp before we start to really make any real indications on who's going to be seated where.
So everybody's concern, John, is now, okay, who's threatened, right? Miami, New York, Boston. Does it mean that Philly are people forgetting that it was just a couple of years ago that the Indiana Pacers were good? And I mean, a healthy Halliburton, a strengthened Pacers team, a hungry, and the Pistons. The Central Division. Are we forgetting about the Central Division?
I think you can count out the Pistons. They proved last year they're a very good regular season team. They don't have the second guy to make them a conference, an Eastern Conference representative threat. Like, Cade Cunningham is better than Jalen Brunson. But to get to the end of the game, Jalen Brunson had OG Anunoby, he had Mikal Bridges, he had Karl Anthony Towns. But Cade Cunningham has no one to get him to the end of the game. Jalen Duren showed that he's not that type of guy. And so they're still missing another guy to kind of take them over the hump. And so with Tyrese Halliburton, we got to see it. Achilles injuries are really, really complicated, and they're person to person. I like how everybody's talking about the Tyrese Halliburton Achilles injury, but no one's talking about the Dame Achilles injury. It's like the Achilles injury is different per player. And so I think that that's another team that we need to see. And nobody saw them winning a championship. Nobody saw that coming. And so I don't think that changes anything.
John Browner's with us, Sporting Tribune, Browner's podcast. He's pretty much doing a video podcast every day, and then he's part of the Sunday to Thursday Sporting Trib Live. Philly.
Can I get something off real quick? Can I get something off real quick?
Yep.
Can we all just please take a second to call attention to the failed nepotism that is the Golden State Warriors? Can we all just take a second to look at what happened to this organization because a rich guy didn't want to pay Bob Myers a couple more $1 million? Mm-hmm. The second Bob Myers has left that organization, it's been an organized dumpster fire. Like, it's not unorganized. They know what's burning. They know how it's burning. They don't know how to put it out. And so as much as, Cleveland lost out because they lost the hometown situation, Miami lost out because you could have had a return of LeBron with Giannis, so that's big time. But Golden State has struck out time after time after time on getting the big guy. And so, to me, I think the failed nepotism of the owner's son now running at the top of the organization, hiding behind Mike Dunleavy, has really exposed that organization for really falling behind the 8 ball.
In Philly, with LeBron there, who has the most pressure of these Philly athletes? Jalen Hurts, Bryce Harper, or LeBron?
That's a really good question. I think Jalen Hurts isn't that good, so I'm gonna say LeBron because Bryce Harper's already won. So yeah, I'm gonna go with LeBron because it's new and it's the thing most people will have their eyes on. So I'm gonna go with LeBron.
Willie, you had several questions. I'll ask them if you want me to.
No, you can go.
About pressure in sports. You want to give John the list? I wouldn't include VGK and Craig.
Well, I added that for local.
I don't know that he's a hockey guy. Yeah, we'll get to that. But come up with some situations here to throw at John about most pressure in all of sports.
Yeah, I heard some great questions over the weekend on different talk shows, and they were talking about our basically the Sixers being under pressure with LeBron. Well, they opened it up. Let's talk about all sports. And their answers were, I figured I'd add the other people's answers to the mix, and I threw a couple of them in my own. And you being with the Sporting Tribune, one of them may apply. But you got the Philadelphia Sixers with LeBron. You got the Rams with McVay. You got UCLA with Corey Close, right? LSU with Lane Kiffin. Can you think of anyone or a team with with a person that has a lot of pressure this season?
USC. That experiment is running out of gas, and it's running out of gas fast. Remember, they moved mountains for this guy and stole him at midnight. Bought him a house, landed him everything has been first class on USC's behalf. Their inability to win football games. He hasn't done his portion. They can't get the defense correct. They can score a ton of points. They look great on the scoreboard. They don't look great on the defensive end. I would say USC is under a lot of pressure to finally at least get to the playoff. I will also say if Aaron Donald returns, I think he will, but if Aaron Donald returns, the pressure on the Rams, they should, but the pressure on the Rams to be not good, historical. I'm talking about numbers better than greatest show on turf, because now you'll have the best defense in the league. Don't forget they brought in 2 corners and the best pass rusher in the game, and then you bring back a Hall of Famer with already the number 1 offense, so the defense will be able to get them the ball back, and they can score against anybody. And so I think the Rams, if Aaron Donald returns, they're under more pressure than anybody in any sport, period, because they have more talent than anybody else, and they should be expected to win.
So let's keep it there. If the Rams sign Aaron Donald, who has more pressure to win in L.A.? Rams, Chargers, Dodgers, Sparks, Galaxy, Lakers, Clippers.
I think the Lakers are under a lot of pressure, but because that's a wait and see, we don't really know what the snow time Lakers are going to look like. Is what people are calling them. I still think it's the Rams. I really do think it's the Rams. The Dodgers are on the verge of a 3-peat. I don't really see anything getting in the way of that. So to me, it's the Rams. I think it's still the Rams in Los Angeles because with all these championships floating around, somebody got to come to the forefront. And if Aaron Donald comes back, all eyes are again. This is a Laker town, then it's a Dodger town. If it's not head to head, but at the end of the day, the Rams are trying to make headway in this market in a way that no football team ever has. And if you can get a Super Bowl in your building where your players never have to leave the city to get to the Super Bowl, oh man, this place, Los Angeles will go crazy.
I'm going to push back on you then.
Please.
Maybe it is the Dodgers because you just said they're on the verge of a three-peat. There's nothing stepping in their way. If they lose, that's a problem. So they're under pressure to complete the three-peat if right now it looks like nothing can step in their way.
If they don't three-peat, no one's going to throw a lot of – we're not going to rearrange the room because of it. There won't be a fight because the Dodgers didn't three-peat.
Well, I might burn the jersey I'm wearing right now.
if the Dodgers don't three-peat because they went back-to-back and it's been so long since we've seen this kind of dominance in baseball, I think the story will just kind of be, well, it's hard to three-peat. I think that will be the story, how difficult the task of three-peating is and how little it's actually done. If the Rams with more talent than anybody can't get to the Super Bowl and win it, what went wrong? They're in a what went wrong situation as opposed to what can go right, and that's why I think it is on the Rams.
John Browner's with us, Browner Podcast. He's part of Sporting Tribune. They do their Sunday to Thursday show, Sporting Trib Today. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of talk the next week or so about the trade deadline. Who needs to be most aggressive at the MLB trade deadline, the Padres, the Angels, or the Dodgers?
Well, the Angels need to just chill out and just see if they get somebody to take Mike Trout. They're done. Put them in a box, kick them up the street. They're cooked. The question becomes, how much more do the Dodgers need, and should the Padres even waste their time? The San Diego Padres have been one of the largest disappointments in baseball, outside of the Mets. What the Mets are doing should be criminal. They should be investigated, stealing that poor man's money. I mean, no one cries for a rich guy, but they've been in him over a barrel. The San Diego Padres, with new ownership that still hasn't been approved, and no one can tell you why, Manny Machado has been batting under 200 for the majority of the season. And Xander Bogaerts, who you gave $300 million to, has been batting 220 since the day he got there. And so this idea that the Padres can either be a buyer or a seller, like who's going to buy what they're selling? And with the way the season is gone, what are you wasting your time buying? So to me, it's kind of like it has to, the Dodgers, if the Dodgers get Tariq Skubal, now that's noise. Now we talk. But outside of that, there's no one else they can really go and get if they need.
All right, you mentioned the biggest issues with the Padres, and that is ill-advised long-term deals with Manny Machado, which, looking at that just now, I cannot believe they actually signed him to an extension after the original deal, but he's owed through 2033. You're right, the Bogaerts deal is ridiculous. Do they have to be desperate and go, you know what? The only way we can get rid of one of these guys is to attach them to Mason Miller, so we've got to trade Mason Miller to get rid of one of these contracts and just take the L on Mason Miller and Leo DeVries.
That's 100% what you got to do. That's it sucked. Now, to me, if you're asking me, I would rather give away Manny just simply because the longevity of that contract, and he can still give you something. No one's going to trade for Xander Bogaerts, even with Miller. And two, if that is a conversation, there's only two teams who can even financially afford to even take that on, that being the Yankees and that being the Phillies. I don't think the Mariners can do it, but the Mariners have been in the discussion. Tampa Bay is not doing it, and any of these other teams floating around, they're not doing it either. So it really comes down to two teams. Can the Yankees do it or can the Phillies do it? And for Mason Miller, you have him under control to 2029. Is it worth, I don't know, $240 million from Xander Bogaerts or another $280 million at $35 million a year for Manny Machado? I don't know, man. I would stand pat if I were those two teams looking at those two players.
John, thank you. Tell people what's coming up this week with the Sporting Trib.
We cooking, baby. Listen, we looking at debuting a really large podcast network starting in August. That's on the cooker, and we got some other things that we're cooking up. But always come to the YouTube page. Always come to the X page and follow us every day. See what's dropping new. We got a lot of guys coming out with a lot of good stuff, so we appreciate it.
John, awesome as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Yes, sir.
There he is, John Browner, Browner's Podcast, up on Twitter. give away a 4-pack of tickets to see the Aviators, just talking a little baseball, taking on Tacoma, coming up on the 6th of August at LV Ballpark. Ticketmaster.com is where you can get your tickets if you don't get this 4-pack of tickets from James. Aviators and Tacoma coming up on the 6th of August. Caller 7 right now, 364-1100.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas.
All right, here we go, 5 o'clock hour. Cofield and Company. Willie Ramirez is here. James is steering the ship. It's Cofield, still abroad in parts unknown, although I've said a couple of times where I am. Lot to get to this 5 o'clock hour. We'll check in on some UNLV football news as first game 33 days away. Someone put out a depth chart today for UNLV football, and it was wildly inaccurate, and that's the dangers of putting out depth charts when you don't have a connection to the program and you just kind of assume out of the transfer portal who may start and who may not. So we'll get into that around 5:30. Willie, we got a lot of WNBA to get to because there were some stories coming out of it, the quality of the game, and also the stuff with Nalissa Smith, who is a key player on the Aces. But we've been talking a lot of food because I am in my original cradle of food in the Garden State and enjoying some of the food here. Boy, oh boy, when I get back, I need to clean up my diet, man. I have I've been living high on the hog, literally the hog.
You
little too much.
What you'll have to do is just run to the nutrition store, get one of those boxes with the 15-day cleanse. You get up, you have 2 capsules. Then after your first meal, you have 2 capsules. And then you go to bed and you have 4 capsules. That'll clean you right out.
Can I tell you?
It's
You
got-
can see on the screen.
He's got a
Read
box.
what that says.
I see.
Read what that says.
I see.
Read it.
Prune
Say it.
lax. Prune lax. Prunes and
you
laxative.
you have a special relationship with your mother, and you're also old when you have a pretty lengthy conversation about clearing out the system. She's like, look at this. This is what I used. Take a box of this. I'm like, all right. Everybody loves Steve. I'm my own version of Everybody Loves Raymond.
My goodness.
Prune lax. What is going on? When did I get old?
Oh, my God. That's great.
My pipes are all jammed up by pizza and pork roll and chicken parms and Italian hot dogs and deli meat and subs and
Gabagool, prosciutto.
I have not had any gabagool. I had a fine Italian feast the other night that Mom made
She made prosciutto, you said.
with sweet and regular sausage, baked ziti. The braciole was outstanding.
Did she do it from scratch with the
No, she
the
didn't do it from
cooking
scratch.
twine, tying the braciole and
The twine was there, but we went to a local Italian market.
Oh,
I don't know
that's
if I
right.
told
You
you
told
about
me.
this one.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah,
were
yeah.
we were sightseeing there, so there was a lot of stuff there.
very
Got a
disappointing.
pepperoni roll, got rice pudding. We just stared at meats.
I didn't get
They
any
were
pictures
making-
of this market. I'm disappointed.
I have tons of pictures. Believe me, I'll send you the pictures. I have a picture of Mom looking at the guy making the mozzarella, as you said earlier.
Mozzarella.
I was like, this is so exciting.
Yeah.
Yes, my life has come to the point where I get excited to go to delis and Italian markets and take pictures, and I'm sure people are like, well, what are you doing? I don't know. Why wouldn't you do it? Look at that food.
Why
Manja.
wouldn't you? Deli cases
Yes.
are fantastic at any age. You learn at a young age that you appreciate the old school delis with the deli cases and seeing it laid out and the homemade, the fresh, whatever it may be in those deli cases. And my spot over here, up here close to the studio, and those deli cases are fresh every day. Forget about it.
I was looking for your stinky provolone that you love. I would have brought that back on the plane for you, but probably ill-advised.
What's that? If we did drop it, is that what they call? What are they called again? Drop-ins or is that what they're called? The sounds.
Yeah.
We would have that comedian. What's that comedian's name? And he goes, "How you doing?"
How you doing? I saw that the other day. They were doing dueling. How you doing? So it turns out that I guess if I want to celebrate this day, I'll have to get sort of a makeshift, maybe chicken parm here. Although you can get chicken fingers anywhere.
Cutlet.
This is actually National Chicken Finger Day.
It is National Chicken Finger Day.
Wow. Okay. Well, it's one of my favorites. I'll tell you that. and we've gotten into this discussion before. National Chicken Finger Day, do you have a place from a fast food standpoint where you're like, you know what, I like those chicken fingers? Or do you only do restaurants?
No, there's only one. For me, at this point in 2026, there's only one answer when it comes to chicken fingers, and that is Cane's. That's my spot. If I'm getting chicken fingers, I'm getting Cane's.
We love Cane's, longtime advertiser with Lotus Broadcasting.
And I'm not saying it just because of that.
No.
There's really no other place that you can go. I mean, in terms of how they do it, the breading's perfect. I mean, there are other places, but it's just, it's the spot, you know.
I've brought up the fact, and I've gotten chastised for it, that some of my favorite fast food chicken fingers are actually from Jack in the Box.
Oh, really?
Yeah, very crunchy.
Tender. They're tender. They're known as tenders at those places.
Chicken tenders.
Are they
or
known as
chicken fingers, chicken tenders, chicken fingers?
No, I'm saying on the menu it says tenders, right?
I think they are.
Yeah.
I think they are. But I like to call them fingers. Do you have a local joint that you like to go to? Because there's a lot of good local joints that have good chicken tenders or fingers.
Off the top of my head, no, in terms of how they serve them, like specific spots, because I don't. If I like, for instance, like if to say, okay, well, I'm in the mood so I'm gonna go to. The other day, actually, when we got off the air with Paul Gutierrez, he and I met up for dinner at an old school joint, but it's a new location in a new area. But one of the oldest ones was around when I was a kid, and they have like good. I don't want to call it bar food because it's a restaurant, but I guess like old greasy spoons would probably have them. I just think if I'm in the mood for chicken fingers, I'm just going to go to Cane's. I don't really think of a spot. Now, I will say this. There's a specific pick 3 that I will get from Chili's, and I will get their honey spicy. They call them crispers, but they're not tenders, and they come across because they're kind of rounded and they have that nice crunch, a little extra batter. So I do like Chili's crispers. Now we've covered fast food and we've covered like local places. The thing
Chain
is joints, yeah.
I
don't know where my old school Vegas peeps are. I know that there are some in the wood, that behind the scenes there that were around in the 80s, but hands down, the best chicken fingers that ever. I mean, you may not have been able to get into the club, but you would order it and pick it up at the front.
Really?
The best chicken fingers ever. And anybody that's going to go, oh, no, this was better, unless you had them, unless you lived here, shut up. Was Tramp's nightclub on Flamingo in Orville. It's the first time, yeah. And that's when tenders became kind of pipe, like at the coffee shops. You'd go to the Gold Coast or the Frontier, the late night spots or the early morning spots for the breakfasts, but you'd always, we would get chicken tenders, and they were but they call them fingers, but they were I consider those tenders where it's just flat breaded. Right, just very flat. There's no crunch to it. They're not rounded with all the crispies that fall off. Tramp's chicken fingers and how they toss it. And the sauce wasn't just buffalo, not just any buffalo. It was their own sauce. If you're out there and you went to Tramp's back in the day and you know Tramp's chicken fingers, that's just where it was. You said, I'm in the mood for Tramp's chicken fingers.
Text line 702-364-1100. Maybe we continue this conversation during the week. I've got my favorite bars. I think most chicken, proper fried chicken places also have pretty good tenders or fingers. So whether you're going Korean route or, somewhere like a Captain Sam's, which I got fingers from there about a month ago, and I was like, wow, these are great. Oh man, I am a chicken tender, chicken finger aholic. All right, let's get back into little basketball here. And I got to mention right out of the gates, Willie, you keep sending over a story, and I'm confused on where the confusion is. You saw a story with Long Beach State's
no
men's basketball team? What's going on?
I didn't have time between breaks at the end of this, and I just clicked. I said, I saw what you wrote on the rundown. The first time I sent this, I just keep forgetting to go back and check. Literally last week was the first time I sent it. This kid who wants to do actually a TikTok show with me, a talk show. He was like, hey, and he knows Chris Acker.
Right.
So when I checked, I was like, there's 2 players on the roster. It's July. What's going on? And I kept going back to it, and then I haven't gone back to it since last week, whatever, like Friday or Thursday or Friday. So when you just put all this stuff in here, I was like, wait a minute. I clicked the link. It's filled out. Literally, the first time I sent this, there were 2 players on the roster. There were 2 players listed, and then the coaching staff.
You sent it middle of last week. I looked up what they had done in the portal and with freshmen, and they had guys. They just hadn't filled out the roster on the college page.
Okay.
Yeah, they were tardy, which that's a little unusual. There are a lot of places that, like the football roster won't be complete until next week when the freshmen are there and they officially make the freshman part of the club. And then you have comings and goings. So I think Long Beach State's going to be okay with their now 12 or 13 players. They got super aggressive in the transfer portal. All right, WNBA All-Star Game. The biggest complaint I saw, or one of the big complaints I saw, is that it was one of those All-Star games where it didn't look like anyone cared. And I don't think the league is in a place to put on kind of a clown fest. Yeah. I thought the Angel Reese highlight, which of course is going to dominate because that's what happens on social media, her going in for a layup against Asia Wilson, where maybe she assumed Asia Wilson was just going to back out and let her make a layup, and Asia Wilson just backed up, did not jump, and blocked Angel Reese. Then they walk back. She's apologizing to her. Then Angel Reese nearly sprains her ankle. I don't know, man. I don't think that's the way you represent the league. As you mentioned early in the game, they were just letting Caitlin Clark chuck up threes and not defending it. Other people thought Paige Beckers didn't look like she was with her full faculties for the game. And you did mention, and we saw videos of this, that the WNBA players, a lot of them really did enjoy the All-Star Weekend festivities. I mean, as a league, if you're going to have a large number of players not care about the game, then you probably shouldn't play the game. And other leagues have decided, hey, there's no sense in having the traditional game. Maybe the WNBA, is this just a down year where they didn't get it? What should they do?
I don't think they should do anything unless they're going to curtail the streaming, because we talked about this earlier, is how do we know that when the NBA All-Star, when the NHL All-Star is in Vegas, or the NBA All-Star when it's anywhere. When it's anywhere. Forget about just Vegas. I mean, it doesn't have to be Vegas. They're going to it's that for most of these leagues, it's the mid-season sort of stretch, right? And relax and unwind. NFL is the only one where it's at the end of the season or after the season. So, how do we know that they're not doing the exact same thing? They're just not broadcasting it to the world, and the women are. So we don't know if somebody has a sluggish performance in the NBA, if the reason is because they pulled an all-nighter, a binger or something. Well, how do we know? We don't. So they shouldn't do anything. They shouldn't change anything other than possibly toning it down with the stud buds and saying, or whomever, and saying, you know what, you want to live stream during the orange carpet, you want to live stream while you're cheering on during the skills festivities or whatever. But when it comes to late night in the hotel room and you got people showing up and you're literally holding up the however big that the big jug looks, like a gallon of liquor, and they're pouring shots and they're doing it live, you know, they can legally do whatever they want. They're of age. They're adult. They're grown women, but they're going to get ridiculed, and you're going to have these
people
complaints.
are going to rush to judgment. There's optics, and if you play poorly or it looks like people are giving less than a full effort, they're going to go back and say, hey, what were you doing the night before? Now, the other thing that I think is going to be a significant story, whether you like it or not, I know it puts you in a difficult position, is some of the storytelling by now Dejanay Carrington. We know that Dejanay Carrington was in a relationship with Melissa Smith. If you remember, Melissa Smith was acquired by the Aces for next to nothing. We had the DeWanna Bonner situation where she was available, and that was more of a team thing with the Pacers. This is not the Pacers, the Fever. This is a league that has some interesting challenges. Now, Dejanay Carrington is claiming that her when she was going out with Melissa Smith, no other league deals with this, right? That Nalissa Smith was sleeping around the league, was doinking around with players around the league, and then there's some video of two aces dancing from the past, I think, and the assertion was, hey, Nalissa Smith is videoing it. In the end, I don't care what people do with their sex lives, their relationships, but it's the rare sport where...
Hang on. Let me correct you.
Yes.
I know where you're going, but
Yes.
let me just correct what you're saying real quick.
Yes.
What she said when she tweeted out or threaded out, whatever on Threads was, she said, yes, Nalissa was cheating on me with Deja Kelly and Aaliyah Nye. They were
Right.
aces, and then she's put plus many more. So not when you say doinking around the league, the names that she put out there were aces teammates. Number one,
Right.
which Deja Kelly got cut, by the way, after training camp. Number one. Number two, there wasn't an insinuation that Nalissa filmed it. That they were doing a TikTok trend that's the aces facility in the bathroom or something.
All I'm telling you on the videoing part of it is
Yeah.
that's what the thread was filled with.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah,
again,
yeah. I got you.
These are optics.
Right.
I don't know how the Aces look at this. Listen, they benefited from the fact that Nalissa Smith was available for next to nothing. Well, when you bring her on board, there's some things that come with Nalissa Smith. So I hope this isn't something that tears the team down, that there's going to be an issue. Now I start to think, and I still believe, that there was something that was more along the legal front or the HR front with Kennedy Carter. Did something happen there? You see the conclusions we can rush to?
100%.
And before anyone's like, you don't do this with men's leagues. Yeah, well, we don't find out about it with men's leagues. And I don't know any men's players who are dating a teammate.
Right.
Or are
Openly gay.
hanging out with players on other teams. I don't know. If I knew, and there's been high-profile situations. Listen, Tony Braxton will forever be in some way connected to a small group of NBA players, that there were issues in the past. But we find out about stuff like that in the NBA once every 5 years.
Right. Well,
Where when they're active participants in going on social media and going on live streams and talking about this, it presents a whole different challenge. And this is something we talked about at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
The fact that AZ Fudd and Paige Beckers are on the same team. Fudd went one. They have a relationship. I hope that thing never ends, because then you're going to be in a pickle with, if they can't handle it professionally, what you're going to do with your personnel.
exactly. Nalissa Smith followed up and went on Twitch for I don't know how long. I tried to watch as many videos as I can in the ones that were posted, like parts 1, 2, and 3, to hear what she had to say. She did say, whether I was cheating or she was cheating. So she kind of insinuated, we don't know, and she didn't deny, but she didn't admit. But she made a point in saying, why, if this happened last year, she didn't say this, but I'm saying this. If this happened last year when Deja Kelly was on the team in training camp and Aaliyah Nye was in her rookie season, you're just bringing this up now why in the middle of the night at a Stud Buds party when drinking's going on the broadcast, and all of a sudden you're seeing the video of what took place. Why all of a sudden are you spouting out now? And what? Because everybody apparently was invited. It was a Stud Buds party, not Dejanay's. And Nalissa walked in with Queen Egbo, I believe. That's what I'm reading is Queen Egbo, who, not a girlfriend, but that's Queen Egbo, is a basketball player. They showed up together. Doesn't mean they were together. And then Dejanay went off. And because Dejanay went off, made a big deal, escorted out. So Dejanay tweets it out or puts it on Threads. And so Nalissa looks like the bad person. But yet, you didn't do it when they were in the same. They've been in the same arena. They've been in the same room. They've been in other places. You did it in that specific. It's just very odd that Dejanay all of a sudden is throwing under the bus with the way that she did. I think it was in poor taste of Dejanay more than anything, regardless of what Nalissa did. Now, as far as the Aces are concerned, here's where the problem lies. And we saw these two talking. It looked civilly. It didn't look like it was heated. Dejanay's alleged new girlfriend, which we see them everywhere, is Jackie Young. So is there a problem between Jackie Young and Nalissa Smith? If you ask me, the fact that it's a year later, I think both come in with, and you know who's going to nip it in the bud? You know who it's time to send out that annual group text message? Asia Wilson's not going to stand for any of it. And she won't have a problem in looking at both Jackie and Alyssa saying, you know what? Squash it now or leave the facility.
Damn. Well, someone's got to do it because you don't want this to
If there's a
fester.
problem. If there's a problem.
And I'll remind people, again, if you're like, hey, it's none of your business, you don't do this with men's leagues. Yeah, it doesn't go public in men's leagues, and it is our business because it can affect the team mix, the personnel, winning, chemistry. That's a reality.
It does happen.
I don't know what's going to happen with. Let's take a break here. I don't know what's going to happen with Kyle Shanahan, but he got into an accident the other day, and it was kind of hidden for about 10 days. I assume he's going to be back. I saw one doctor say he could be out months. He could be out for the entire season. I don't think that's going to happen. But we'll get to what's going on with Kyle Shanahan in about 20. But up next, some UNLV football. Also more on LeBron James in Philadelphia. Big NBA fan, big NBA watcher, football insider. Caleb Herring is up on Cofield and Company.
Now back to Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas.
All right, time for our Monday conversation. A little UNLV football, plenty of NBA, some NFL. Caleb Herring joins us every Monday here on Cofield and Company with Willie and Steve Cofield. Caleb, what's up, buddy?
The temperature, Steve. The temperature's up. No, I'm doing good. Football's inching closer and closer. I feel it coming in the atmosphere. But I'm doing good. How are you guys?
I'm good. It was 76 yesterday when you guys had 111, so I heard from the SO about how hot it was there, but I had a nice cool breeze here on the East Coast. Speaking of that, I'm in 76er fandom area. Are you still kind of reeling from LeBron to Philly?
I'm still taking it in, I guess. I'm not. The shock is worn off. I don't think anybody had that on their big old card. I think it was always a possibility, but I think I'm just so confused by LeBron James. And I could have gotten behind him making a decision about his next stop, or at what I guess would be his last stop, 2-year deal with this team. He does have a trade clause, so he or a player option rather, where he could get out of it the next year. But he said so much, and I believed him, maybe foolishly, that this decision was about family and about his happiness more so than chasing a ring or the money. Clearly, the money wasn't the issue, but it clearly, to me, is the ring-chasing move. And I would be okay with it. I would have accepted this move if that was the narrative from the beginning. Like, I want to win another championship. I want to be competitive, da-da-da-da. If that was how he approached this decision, or at least publicly approached it, I would have been fine with him making it. But because he gave us so much, one, stalling, and then two, I guess sort of fake narratives that it wasn't about the ring and that he was trying to make everybody. I don't think his daughter's going to be happy about Philadelphia. I don't think you could say the family was at the forefront moving to Philadelphia. And then on top of that, apparently living in New York while he's in with the Sixers. So it's confusing still hard to understand, but I guess he's hot in pursuit of another championship, and maybe he'll bring one to Philadelphia.
Would it have been more palatable, digestible for a lot of people who are not big fans of LeBron James had he joined, I don't know, the Phoenix Suns, who have no shot to win a title, wouldn't have a shot to win a title with LeBron? And his rationale was, you know what, I want to get in ownership, and Matt Ishbia has given me a chance to get into ownership. What if he valued money over winning?
I think the wanting to get in ownership aspect of it would have been interesting. So I could see that, just taking a boatload of money and making it about trying to get that ownership angle. But as a non-LeBron fan, I'm not a LeBron hater, I will go that far. But as a person who's not a fan of LeBron, I think the only way LeBron's last move would have been at all satisfying was for him to go back home to Cleveland and finish his career in the city that brought him into the public eye and put him on the map in terms of superstardom. I think that would have been some sort of reconciliation for the things I don't like about him. So I could see, if he went for the check and said, I want to get an ownership, I want to own the team that comes to Vegas in a couple years. Or be a part owner at least, and have the financial cachet to do such a thing. I think that would have made sense. It would have been cool. It would have been better than what we got. Like you said, more palatable than just typical ring chasing at the end of your career. So I think the only move for me that would have made me happy a little is him going back to Cleveland, and he chose not to do that.
Yeah, and if I haven't made it clear, I am totally on the other side. I think this is one of the greatest things ever. I'm a LeBron stan. I think going to try and win is the smartest thing to do, but I get it. There's LeBron fatigue, and I do think the narrative, though, about Jordan is completely false, and that's why I presented it to you that way, that Michael Jordan thought it was more important to win and still be the leading scorer on a team. I'm sorry. He thought it was more important over winning to be the leading scorer on a team, was not going to acquiesce, was not going to join other players to try to win a title, and he was more interested in money and ownership over what LeBron is doing. So
yeah, I think
they're different people, and I think for the most part, MJ has kind of escaped that he went to the Wizards and they sucked, and he actually wasn't that good, but everyone got all geeked up because he was 40 and 41 years old, and I don't know. I think winning is everything, and I don't know. I keep saying I don't know. Most people, when they look to finish out a career or move on from a job, want to go to a winner and not to a losing franchise. But I can explain it until I'm blue in the face. There are people who are just dead set against anything LeBron does.
And I get your angle completely. It's just not the angle I take for greatness. When I look at a Steph Curry situation, and I just, even if he's not winning, if what he's doing is bigger than the game, and being himself and being loyal to the city or whatever, I would appreciate that more. But I just thinking about the ego kind of checking, whose team is Philadelphia? I mean, Joel Embiid has been the guy for so long, hurt or not. He's been, the lifeline of Philadelphia. Jaylen Brown left Boston, we assume it's because there was he wanted to be his own guy. That's been a narrative. He wanted to have his own team. So he goes over to Philly. He's already kind of splitting that with the upcoming Maxey and Embiid, who's established there. Now LeBron's in the mix. Is LeBron really okay taking a back seat? Because in Philly right now, he has what he had in L.A., where he's not the main guy. He could play the four. He could play off the ball a lot and let Luka run the show. Who's going to really run that team in Philadelphia? Those are questions that got to be answered before, you start saying they're winning a championship or coming out of the East. But
you can actually bet offshore who's going to introduce last, like who will get the top billing in the Sixers' first home game. Is it LeBron? Is it Jaylen Brown? Is it Joel Embiid? Or is it Tyrese Maxey?
It's got to be LeBron, right? I mean, if you're Philadelphia, you have to gas that up as much as you can during the seasons that you have them.
Caleb Herring is with us. Willie Ramirez, Cofield here on this Monday. Who do you think will be the leading scorer? Because you can also bet that one. Is it going to be Maxey, Embiid, Jaylen Brown, LeBron, or a long shot would be VJ Edgecombe? Leading scorer, not for the first game, but for the whole season.
I would probably lean towards Maxey as they try to figure things out. I think they will play with a lot of pace to start, and I think Maxey will have opportunities more with the ball in his hand, at least to start. I know there's some rumors that LeBron will play the point a lot for Philly, but if Maxey has the ball in his hand and the attention that the other guys draw, I don't see him having as much of a problem with the way he can score from deep and with pace and speed. I think he's shown that he can be explosive with scoring. So I think he might be my pick for the lead scorer, and I think LeBron would have it that way. LeBron hasn't been he's been a great scorer. He's averaging over 20 points at this age, which is ridiculous, and give him his flowers for that. But I don't think he wants that to be what his role is on this team. I think it's going to be, for me, between Maxey and Brown, whoever can get the most shots up. But I think Brown's shots are going to take a hit because I don't think an offense will run through Jaylen Brown. I think you could run an offense through Tyrese Maxey with a 1-4 pick and roll if LeBron isn't playing the 4, something like that, to get Maxey going downhill with pace. And Jaylen Brown turns into almost like a spot up, find it off the play, rather than a guy who dominates the ball.
Let's get to the important stuff, Caleb. What Philadelphia landmark will LeBron visit first, the Rocky Steps or the Liberty Bell?
It's the Rocky Steps for sure, and with that, the Rocky will be his favorite movie, and we'll learn that as well. That it was his favorite movie of all time.
Yeah. What?
All of a sudden.
What will LeBron wear first, Phillies gear or Eagles gear?
I think he will end up first wearing Phillies gear, because I think if he hasn't already, he's going to be throwing out a first pitch soon.
I agree.
So he's going to be doing that very shortly. I think baseball is kind of more in the heat of their season, so it makes more sense, in the coming months to be all about baseball. But he will attend several Eagles games and be an all-in Eagles fan before October's over.
Okay, so historic Philly cheesesteak place, Pat's, has already said if you come in and order it a specific way, there's a special way to order it. The King's Way, they'll receive the same cheesesteak made with steak, cheese whiz, and onions, given the familiar order a royal nickname without changing the recipe. Or Geno's, their very, very closely guarded VIP booth already has his name on it, and they would welcome him behind the counter. Which cheesesteak place will he visit first?
They called it his king seat already, the VIP. He's going
there. Pat said if you order it, if you come in and say the King's Way, they'll receive the same cheesesteak. So he's tempted. Pat's. I keep saying Pat's Chinese in my head because there used to be a famous Chinese joint here at the Commercial Center. Pat's is temporarily changing how customers can order its classic Whiz Wit in James's honor. Fans who ask for the King's Way, they'll receive that particular cheesesteak made the same way, but it's now being called that. Geno's has a heavily guarded VIP booth, and they've offered to bring him behind the counter for a cheesesteak making lesson, but that booth already has LeBron's name on it, said the owner.
Yeah, so he's going there first, the Geno's. That's where LeBron's going. He's going to the King's VIP booth.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
That's going to be a photo op for sure. The whole the cheese stick, the King's Way cheese. I don't. That might. It's going to catch. I mean, they're going to sell a lot of cheesesteaks that way. But I don't think LeBron's going to come for that. I think he wants the red carpet rolled out. He wants the photo ops.
I think Geno. I'd bet Geno's if I'm betting.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Time to chime in for our first moment of a Broadcaster Bites podcast. People in Philly will tell you that you shouldn't go to either one of those places because they've become super tourist trappy.
Yeah.
And that a place called Angelo's has changed the entire game and is the best cheesesteak now in Philly because, as I was told by real insiders, my brother lived there, that Angelo's changed the bread game.
Oh, the bread's the most important thing.
Everyone's having to match the bread. Mm-hmm. So maybe he'll go there.
Yeah.
Or maybe he'll cut a deal with someone and it'll be an endorsement and he won't go to any of them and he'll pick somewhere else. How about that?
Maybe he'll start his own cheesesteak restaurant chain. The King's
Cheesesteak.
Maybe. But I think, the bread is definitely key to any kind of sloppy or greasy meal because you have to get the right amount of absorption where it doesn't soggy, but still maintains kind of the structure of the sandwich. So if you got the right bread, I think that's the right place to go. Whatever that place is that the insiders are recommending, I'd like to go there.
That was the rule back when we did San Gennaro Feast. We're talking 20, 30 years ago when we would cook. It's the sausage and peppers is cooked a certain way. The Philly cheesesteak is cooked this, but the bread was the most important thing in the booth.
Yes. It's key. Trust me. I got a couple of sandwiches the other day that the bread was not great and it ruined the whole thing. And I took the bread and freaking chucked it. It was terrible. Cofield and Company, Caleb Herring is with us. All right, UNLV football up in 33 days. I sent you someone who was attempting to put together a depth chart for UNLV football, and there was a lot of mistakes on it. And the biggest mistake people make is if you're not out at camp and you don't see who's tracking as the 1, 2s, and 3s, which, by the way, is never set in stone at the beginning of camp. The biggest problem is there's so many transfers that are in on this team, Caleb, that I think a lot of people assume, hey, if you transferred from so-and-so, you're going to be a starter. This thing was way off. I'm going to call Neverett on the carpet because Matt did a spot the other day. Matt, of course, the voice of Rebel Football on the play-by-play side, and he was talking about a Marion Walker as a potential breakout guy. I don't know if that's going to be the case because the wide receiver core is so deep, and there's going to be a real premium on if you get an opportunity, and you know this as a quarterback, you get an opportunity, the ball's thrown your way, you better catch it.
Yeah, and especially with a new quarterback, right? Like he's trying, and Jackson Arnold, who is presumed to be taking the first snaps this year, he's trying to prove himself as well. Like he's not going to waste time, throwing to guys who aren't in the right spot, aren't making catches, aren't coming down with the ball. So there's going to be a premium, like you said, on those targets. Who can he trust the most? And I don't know who that is yet, as of yet. I think, like you said, fall camp is not even started. They start on Wednesday. And as it goes, you'll kind of see the starters kind of formulate the cream rise to the top or whatever the saying you want to throw in there. And Dan Mullen's going to give everybody the opportunity. That's kind of his style. The guy who's going to be on the field is going to reveal himself, and that's going to happen. But in the receiver room, there is a lot of turnover, especially with two of the top guys leaving and one fighting for an NFL spot in Bradley. But I think some of the returners, D'Angelo Irving, who's been around for a long time, seen a couple of different coaching staffs, but he's been in the mix. He's got that leadership, like I said, experience at UNLV. I think that might shine out a little bit. And the guy I'm high on to have a breakout year in his own right is a returning guy, Tayshaun Lyons. I think he has the tools. Didn't get as many targets last year, but he has the tool to me to become a number one receiver. I'm anxious to see what fall camp looks like with him and with Walker in the mix as outside receivers to see who does separate in that back. But I would think that it would be Tayshaun Lyons. And that's not just because of the all-conference respect that he got this offseason, but just looking at the raw talent last year, I was really big on him. Most of the things that I saw from him were just practice or in early outs before the games. Like he didn't get that many reps in game, but he has the tools if he's developed them the right way over the offseason and if he's earned the trust of Jackson Arnold and the quarterback room, then I think he might be in the receiver room, the guy that has a breakout year.
I'll give you a position people can make a mistake on because I don't think they realize the complicated nature of the position. They figure, hey, just pin your ears back and go, and that's not the case on the defensive line, especially on the inner parts of the defensive line. And last year, assignment football was not always effective and executed by that defensive line, and Ricky Logo was blowing his top repeatedly on that depth chart. And this is not to take a shot at the kid, but he's new to the program. Herb Gray is listed as a starter. So I understand why that happened because Herb is transferring in from Tennessee. So the assumption is made, well, Tennessee, he's going to be the guy. Herb was a walk-on, and he might have been a PWO, like Jackson Woodard, right? And you had that whole argument a couple of years ago, but Herb was a walk-on at Tennessee. Herb is more of a developmental dude with, I think, sophomore eligibility, if not freshman eligibility. Unless he made major strides, and he does in the spring, he's not going to be starting at defensive line. So, again, I'll point out, be careful when you see depth charts and having some established thing in your mind about who's going to start and who's not, because the guessing at the depth chart is not a smart way to do it.
No, and that's why a lot of that preseason guessing is really moot, I guess, because you don't know what the guy looks like in a Rebel. And I would say Jackson Woodard was the example in the opposite direction, where it's like, hey, people thought walk on, he's not going to be very good. And you go and see him and you see it for yourself and you assess what he's capable of. And then your tune would change, right? Then you see him on Saturdays in between the lines, like, yeah, he's a football player. I could see it. And it's the same thing like you're saying here in this case. It's like, we don't know what this player looks like with UNLV, with this system, with this coaching, with the technique. Like you said, defensive line is not just about your measurables. There's guys, Aaron Donald, who don't measure as a dominant defensive lineman, but because they've mastered the technique in the trenches, they can dominate. And Aaron Donald's a freak of nature strength-wise too, but the things that make a defensive lineman at this level great are the things that he does in between the lines with his mind and with his technique. How many times have you seen defensive linemen who could dominate a one-on-one situation but are constantly out of position when it comes to making a play on the ball? I know as a quarterback, we used to game plan for guys who were like bulls in the china shop, and we would call plays to take advantage of the aggressiveness of the because they were so dominant and forceful in the center of the defensive line. We would say, yeah, come on, do that. We're running a draw. We're running a misdirection play. We're doing something to exploit that gap. Gap discipline and being sound is one of the things that Coach Odom and his staff, just going back to yesteryear, were so good at defensively, and that's why they had such a good defense. It wasn't because they had a guy who was just wrecking defenses or wrecking offensive lines and getting sacks all over the place. They had very sound gap discipline, and that included the linebackers and the defensive line working together to make sure there was no space to breathe. And sometimes that means not getting upfield. You have to have the discipline to understand when to and when not to as a defensive lineman. That will play a bigger role than the guy's measurables or what he did at his previous school or how big he is coming into UNLV. We'll see how these guys fit in the system, but I would venture that it would be more returning guys, at least to start, at the top of the depth chart who know the system and kind of understand the assignments they're going to be asked to do.
Yeah, this depth chart also completely ignored Cohen Fuller, who is probably going to be a starter, rotational guy on the inside on the defensive line. 90 seconds, 2 questions. One, I know you wanted to talk about fan enhancements for the season, student section, and also the Winfield Club.
Yeah, student section, it was so popular last year that the student section is coming back. It's going to be featured in its on-field nature for all 6 games, which is good to hear, but they're actually going to add a actual retractable seating section to the field at Allegiant Stadium for 3 of the games. The schedule conflicts, they won't be able to do it because the Raiders and all that kind of stuff, we kind of have those issues for some of the games. But for 3 of the games, it's going to be the actual retractable seats down there on field level in the student section. So we got to fill that place up. Obviously, there's going to be some national televised games, and people wanted it. So UNLV and Allegiant Stadium have heard the calls, and they've made something happen to get that student section rolling for the home games this year. So that'll be an awesome thing. Also, the Winfield Club, which was open to purchase tickets and get seating there, is going to be available for every game, not just select games, every home game. That Winfield Club will be there. Also, little known fact, it comes with an after party. So the Winfield Club is open to the game. You can enjoy the game down there. But after the game is over, there's a couple hours where it basically turns into a club down there. The DJs pay for a certain amount of time, and he continues to play music, and they serve drinks down there. So if you get your tickets at the Winfield Club, great food down there from what I've heard. I've never eaten it because I'm up in the booth obviously working, but I hear the food down there is great, and it's a great time. Great perspective to watch some college football down near the action, so that's also awesome. And also, new this year.
30 seconds.
Rebel pregame party in the C lot before the game starts 3 hours. Tickets are on sale. You can go get those tickets as well. So a lot of new things this year for UNLV football.
And then get into the stadium at least a half an hour before kickoff, or else I have to hear from Caleb all season long. So please do that. Be dedicated. Get in early. Caleb, we'll see you, buddy.
All right. Take care, guys.
Coming up next, we go into the grab bag, and we'll get some details on the Kyle Shanahan accident. I think he's okay, but he's going to be away from the team or not fully able to do his job for a little while.
Cofield and Company presents Grab Bag on ESPN Las Vegas.
Stick your hand in there, Dave.
All right, Willie, National Chicken Finger Day. Text line response. What'd we get in?
We had several. Andrew says Blue Ox for local, Carl's Jr.'s for the fast food. He also said ESPN Willie gets time to shine with a Vegas local joint and goes Chili's. He didn't like my choice. Well, Andrew, here's the deal. That's where I go local. I don't go to other places. If I was going to try them, the place I was talking about earlier, the old school, was Village Pub. Sean checks in. Oh, no, excuse me. Sean just said it's the sauce that made them so good. He said past tense, so I'm wondering if he meant Tramps or if he was talking about Canes when we were talking about Canes. Garrett says Hamburger Hut's chicken fingers are legendary and deserve exposure. Raphael, best chicken fingers in old school back in the days, late night, early mornings with Scores, Gentleman Bar and Grill.
I'm down with the Blue Ox. I didn't get to mention that earlier.
Blue Ox is a little old school.
Yep.
Yeah.
No doubt. I'm gonna save a text that you got for Wednesday. That's a good tease ahead.
Okay.
Thanks to Willie. Thanks to James for holding down the ship in Vegas. We're back tomorrow with ESPN National. Wednesday with Cofield and company. Big week on the way. Make sure you check out all of our socials up on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok, where Willie is a megastar. Willie, got anything cool coming up in terms of battles on TikTok?
We've deactivated to recalibrate. Got a big meeting with the owner of the agency that I'm a part of tomorrow, and then I'll be back on Wednesday. Hopefully, once we recalibrate the FYP, the algorithm, we will return the TikTok Q&A segment from the followers.